Alhaji gets 20 cows. Next, I went to a very large town called Tagina. The chief of the town greeted me like a friend, and I became a lodger in somebody's house. One day, I went to the palace and I heard the chief saying, "The wife of one of my servants has just died. He cannot sleep at night because he is so sad. He keeps me awake too because he walks around the house all night, shouting and weeping." "Would you like me to do something about it?" I said. "Of course, if you can," replied the chief. That night I went secretly to the servant's house and hid under his bed. The servant came to bed, and before long he began to cry aloud. "I wish that I had died instead of my wife," he cried. I put on a strange voice and said, "I am Death. I've been sent to take your life so that you may join your wife." The servant was frightened because he did not really want to die. He ran out of the house in great alarm. The next day, he hastened to the chief and told him that death had visited him in the night. The chief merely laughed aloud, and the man felt very foolish. From that day, he stopped calling for death to take him to his precious wife. Soon I set off on my way again. Everywhere I went, I asked people if they knew where I could find the water of cure. Nobody knew. As I was walking through the bush, one day, I saw two villagers attacking each other. Just as I reached them, one of them killed the other. He saw me and tried to run away, but I shouted, "Stop! I must take you to the chief." "Oh no, please don't do that," he cried, falling on his knees. "What will you give me if I don't tell anybody?" I asked. "I'll give you 10 cows," he answered. He was quite breathless with fear. "10 cows," I said fiercely. "You must be mad. That isn't nearly enough." "I'll give you 20 cows then," he said. I agreed to this price, and we went to his father's field. He chose 20 cows and gave them to me. I drove them into the town, pretending that I had bought them. I sold them in the town. In this way, I obtained plenty of money to continue on my journey in search of Ruwan Bagaja, the water of cure. Thieves follow Alhaji. Next, I went to a town called Maska and stayed in the house of a Malam named Dan Daula. People called him Na Malam Airo. I became friendly with one of the Malam's servants whose name was Kado. We spent every day together. One evening, after we had talked for a long time, I went to my room and lay down. Before I could sleep, I heard a knock on my door, and a very large man entered. I was alarmed, but I thought I had better appear to be calm. I stood up and said, "Come in, come in. Please sit down. Why didn't you tell me that you were coming?" I spoke as if I had met him before, and he seemed surprised. "Where have you seen me before?" he asked. "I've known you for a long time," I answered, "and all your friends and family. Don't you remember me?" He looked at me again and said, "If you do know me, what is my name?" I lifted up my head and shouted in a loud voice, "Your name is Thief." He rushed from the room as fast as he could. However, the whole house had wakened at my shout, and lots of people ran after him. He escaped, but the next night he came back with some other thieves who were his friends. I could not defend myself against so many, so I decided to leave that house. I went to stay in the house of Sakin Gardi, a man who kept a number of hyenas in his house. He played with them in the marketplace, and people gave him money. The thieves discovered that I had moved, and that night they followed me to Sakin Gardi's house. I was sleeping inside the room where the hyenas were. I wasn't afraid of them at all. I always gave them meat to eat. Therefore, they trusted me and never beat me with their sharp teeth. One of the thieves entered the room through the window. He knew it was the room where I slept, but he didn't know the hyenas slept there too. When the hyenas heard his movements beside the window, they started to attack him. He was very frightened and cried out to me, "Get up! You've caught a thief!" I knew why he said this. He was afraid of the hyenas and needed my help. So I answered, "So far as I know, you're not a thief. Nothing of mine has been stolen. Go on your way." He cried, "Please protect me from these wild hyenas. Look, they've torn all my garments. I would rather go to prison than be killed." I shook my head. "Make haste, go away while you can," I repeated. Then Sakingadi woke up and asked what was the matter. I told him all about it. After that, I took a stick and beat the thief until he cried aloud. I put his hands behind his back and tied them with rope.